So welcome to another episode of the Bandwagon Sports Podcast. Adel, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good, Fayaz. What else is new with you?
Um, I'm okay. I'm in a little state of mourning. I don't know if you heard, but LeBron James has left the Miami Heat and is headed back to his hometown of Cleveland.
Yeah, the big news we had yesterday with the whole release of the essay from LeBron. Uh, Seemed like it was a very hush hush operation, and they got things done pretty fast.
Yeah, this came as a shock to me, just because not a shock. I mean, maybe I was in denial because like. Uh, this was in the works for. It seems like this was kind of what was going around, circles, insider circles, that he was going to head back to Cleveland. But just, I felt like, after four straight NBA Finals, and it seems like he had a really good relationship with the organization. And even as late as like a couple of days ago, he was hanging out with Dwayne Wade in Las Vegas. So for me, it just seemed like he was probably going to re-sign with the Heat. I was just, a little surprised.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like it was one of those things where Uh, this summer was kind of like everyone was looking at what Melo was gonna do and Melo watch and this and that, and then suddenly, like in the last like maybe week,
Hmm.
it just became a footnote because suddenly there were rumblings that you know what, something's going on. He might be considering Cleveland, and surprise is a big word, and I was surprised. What I find really interesting about this move is uh, how it all transpired. Like, all the people behind the scenes made sure everything was okay before going ahead and trying to work a deal out. So, like, you know, Gilbert, Maverick Carter, Rich Paul, LeBron, they all got together. They made sure they discussed everything, sorted out their differences. Like acknowledge each other's mistakes and all that stuff. And it was really interesting because those are the kind of meetings that usually get quote unquote leaked out because people in that meeting want it leaked out. But guess what? That none of that stuff was actually leaked out, and we only found out about this later after the fact. Sometimes there were a few like red herrings being thrown out. Oh, Dan Gilbert's plane is here or there, but the reality is none of these guys from the big organizations, ESPN, Yahoo, really knew what was going on, and like there were only a couple of people out there who were kind of advocating last few days that I think Cleveland's in, and like we got to give a shout out to Chris Sheridan from Sheridan Hoops. He put his neck on the line, 3-4 days ago,
Hmm. Hmm.
and he didn't back down. He was actually getting mocked. I remember they were apparently ESPN New York, Colin Cowherd, like they came on and they were kind of making fun of the fact that Chris Sheridan's like going on such a limb, like LeBron's going to Cleveland. Um, as late as Thursday night on ESPN.com, David Thorpe had 99% LeBron staying in Miami. So I mean, like this really surprised not just us as
Oh
fans
yeah, yeah,
and independents, but
yeah.
it surprised a lot of journalists, a lot of the media.
I mean,
So
I,
it was pretty impressive, I think.
I think Chris Broussard also felt some vindication too, because he was definitely lobbying for LeBron to head back to Cleveland. Being an Ohio
Yeah,
native.
with the Broussard thing, like you know my feelings on Broussard. Like it seems like he always throws like the 75% thing and hope that one of his 75%ers stick. But like, but a guy like Sheridan, for a guy like Sheridan to go out and say it's a done deal on like I think it was
Hmm.
Monday or oh, no maybe it was
Hmm.
Tuesday night. He said
Hmm.
it is done.
Yeah,
That's pretty crazy. I mean that
yeah,
takes some
yeah,
stones,
yeah.
right?
What I want to know is, like, when the decision happened 4 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
this is had something that had been in the works for a few years, 2 3 years
Mm-hmm.
before. How how long do you think this has been in the works for LeBron to leave in Cleveland? Do you think this is something he thought of, he just realized maybe after the finals it's time to bail, or something well in advance?
I think his people, like his agents, had at least maybe put out feelers and stuff about what could be possible or whatnot. In the last, like maybe as the season ended, as their season ended. But I honestly believe LeBron probably didn't know this would happen. Like maybe like 6 months ago, just because I think the way it all played out. Cleveland had to make a lot of moves at the last minute to do it. They had the meeting so late in the game, like really recently. And but I agree with you. I think, I think I told you this during the Spurs series. Um, there was a moment, I think it was like game four or game five, and I'm looking. LeBron is just gassed. He's like running up and down the floor. He's doing everything on offense, everything on defense, and he kind of had this look where he like looked to his bench, looked to his guys on the floor, and be like, uh, I don't know if this is worth it anymore. I'm just like dragging these guys around, and like I'm exhausted. Like I am exhausted, and like I think though around that time is probably when the seeds of doubt probably crept in with him, in the sense that he was like, is this the best place for me to keep playing? Not that he doesn't like it there and he didn't enjoy it. Like, he made it very clear he loved his time there. He had a great time with his friends. He described it like college, like he didn't go to college, and he kind of said it was almost like a college experience. I went away for 4 years, now he's coming back, and I think he just kind of like, he's grown older, he's more mature, and he's kind of looking at a more big picture thing beyond just basketball, and he was like, I'm sacrificing a lot in the sense of putting a lot of effort every single day in like middle of February against the Charlotte Bobcats. Like how much more can I do, and is it worth it?
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback on what you said, this is the first time, and the first time since I can remember watching LeBron where he actually, I saw fatigue in him. I
Hmm.
saw him pacing himself. I remember in the Indiana series, previous years on fast breaks, he's pretty much 90% finishing at the rim, and I remember he missed a few, easy, shots at the rim, and luckily Dwayne Wade was there to follow up. But I mean, yeah, I mean, in the Spurs series, just from a basketball standpoint, he had to work a lot more. And like I don't know if you checked out my piece on BUX Sports. I think maybe he looked at the future of this team and his run with this team, and I think they're more on the downhill, the downslope, of this run,
Yeah.
versus on the upslope or at the top.
Yeah, I mean, and like before, like anyone thinks I'm a hater or anything. I mean, the reality is any team would take four straight finals and two titles. Any team in the NBA. So, you know, that's a fantastic run. But like you said, every run has some sort of end. And I think LeBron not only saw this opportunity of going back and this huge, uh, bigger than basketball story of redemption in Ohio, but he also saw the fact, like you said, this Heat team might be on the downside. Dwayne Wade took so many games off in the season and yet still didn't have anything to
Hmm.
give in that final. So LeBron was just like, you know what? I need to cut my losses. Um, I've achieved what I wanted to do in terms of winning titles here. It's been successful, you know, and now maybe I want to do something bigger. Maybe I want to settle down uh, and try something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely as a diehard, Heat fan that was, very emotionally invested in this team for the past 4 years. You know, I don't really have anything bad to say about LeBron. I have no problem, with his decision. If he wanted to go home, I respect that, and I'm just thankful for 4 great years. We went to the finals every year, and I mean, it was a roller coaster ride of emotions.
Hmm.
From every loss, thinking, regular season or playoff in the first 2 years, thinking, wow, you know, can we? I mean, maybe we need to make a trade. Maybe we need to make a decision. Or I remember every loss, it was like, all right,
Yeah, I
next
mean
game, season's on
everything
the
was
line.
overanalyzed, like you said.
Overanalyzed. It was fun. And then we got 2 titles yet, and then we sort of had the end of our run. But I think from a basketball perspective, this was the right decision for him. He's going to Cleveland. He's playing. He gets to play with Kyrie Irving, who's sort of like he's not the same type of player as Dwayne Wade, but still he's a young super up and coming superstar that can score the
Mm.
ball and perfect running mate for LeBron James, and you bring some shooting that can help him as well.
Mhm.
And then they have trade pieces in Wiggins, Bennett, Waiters that they can go out and get Kevin Love, get a Chris Bosh type
Mhm.
as the third guy to go with them,
Sure.
and they have some of the Heat's picks coming up in the future,
Right. Yeah.
and some
Those
cap
trades, right.
flexibility. So
Yeah.
I think from a basketball standpoint, it was objectively speaking, forgetting he's going to Cleveland and it's in the Midwest or whatever, and you can stay in Miami, like definitely like he had more options, and his chances for winning his title window, I think, was definitely going to be extended by him going to Cleveland.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all those things, and what I liked a lot about, I already told you this on text. What I liked about LeBron's whole decision was how level-headed it was. Like he explained everything out very clearly. He didn't like promise championships by the number. He didn't like and what was good was he acknowledged that 2010 decision, the way it was done, it wasn't that he went to Miami, it was how he went to Miami. He would have done it differently. He knows that, and he made sure none of those mistakes happened. And I think it came off as really classy how he did this whole thing. And the reality is one title in Cleveland, if he wins one, would be like a huge bonus on his legacy, on his
Definitely.
in the totality of his career. And the reality is, I don't see him being a loser in the big picture scheme of things, even if they don't win a title again. Because like just the fact, I think it's just a fantastic story. So I mean, I think it's really cool. You kind of want to. He's kind of like going in that want to right the wrongs kind of thing. He's older. He's got a
Yeah.
family. He talked about his kids. I think it was just a really cool story.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, the way when he went to Miami 4 years ago, it was all about winning championships, and
Mm-hmm.
you know,
And playing with his friends, like he was a young guy, like
exactly,
not that
exactly.
he's like really old now, but you know what I mean. Like he was like
Yeah,
really like
I mean, NBA years, he's an older
yeah,
guy.
right, like a
But yeah,
veteran.
this decision is, he's not trying. He goes to win a title, but he's going there to, I guess, resurrect Northeast Ohio basketball, and
And
try
put
to
it
do
back on
whatever
the
he
map.
can.
And I told our friend Boaz this. I said, Ohio is back on the map. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
natives of Ohio might think that Ohio's always been on the map, but in reality, in terms of media coverage, it's not really on the map.
Hmm.
So it's fantastic that they're back on the map here.
So, how do you think Cavs fans are reacting to this? I mean, 4 years ago,
Oh,
he
this
was
is like the
public enemy.
greatest day in Cleveland sports history since like maybe one of the titles they won in like whatever other sport. I don't even follow some of the other sports, but
Hmm.
like this might be like one of the biggest sporting events in the history of Cleveland. The fact that he's going back,
Yeah, yeah,
I think, like not like them getting back in the playoffs or winning a series. Like this is huge. This is one of their own guys coming back. I mean, and you could see like the genuine uh, happiness from some of the reactions we saw on TV and stuff like yesterday and stuff, and, from some of the fans. Just like, oh man, this is awesome. Like if you think about it, 4 years ago, um, 4 years ago, a 7-year-old kid probably saw one of his heroes, sporting heroes, leave, and was like devastated. Probably just like hated his guts, something like that. And then just to see that guy come back, it's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of like Batman. He like disappeared, and like Gotham's like, what the heck? Gotham's in ruins. It's falling apart. It needs a savior. And suddenly, this like dude just shows up. He's like, I'm back. Let's go. I mean, like, what does that kid do? That kid is just like over the moon. He's now 11 years old, and he's just like living the dream.
I didn't really mean to go here, but I think you sort of indirectly took me down this road. But if if this is the Dark Knight Rises, if LeBron James is returning to Cleveland as the Dark Knight Rises, can we assign a few characters here?
Oh man. Well, I mean, well, okay. Let's. Who we gonna?
All right. Okay. LeBron obviously is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. So he's coming back.
Kyrie Irving. Who's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, the police officer?
Oh yeah, John Blake. Yeah.
John Blake. Who is it? Is it Kyrie Irving? Is it Andrew Wiggins?
Mm, yeah, I guess you could. I guess you could give it to what's his name? Yeah, I think you have to. You just by default, since he got his max deal, you got to give it to him.
Kyrie?
Yeah.
Or is Maverick Carter?
Wiggins is like is probably two-faced. He's probably Harvey Dent because we don't know what his true motives are. We don't know if his ultimate fate will be with the Cavs or will be playing in Minnesota.
True.
So
True.
we don't actually know what
Yeah.
his fate will
Yeah.
be.
And I guess I was gonna say Alfred will be played by Maverick Carter.
I guess I don't really know who Maverick Carter is
I
besides
know.
the name on text. I've never actually
Or
seen
maybe
him in
Big
real
Z.
life. Yeah, Z could be Alfred.
Z's Alfred, Big Z's Alfred, and
I
then I
hope
guess
I hope Z gets back in with the organization because I know like when they fired Chris Grant, I think they were saying that Z was probably getting let go too as assistant GM. So Z and LeBron go
Z
way
was
back.
assistant
They're
GM.
really close. I think it'll be nice if Z gets back in.
Wow. Big Z was assistant GM.
Yeah, he was assistant GM. Yeah, but when they fired Chris Grant, I don't know what happened like with Z. I think they might have got rid of the whole staff or something.
Interesting, gutsy. Yeah, and then I guess Commissioner Gordon. I don't know if if he's Dan Gilbert or if he's Adam Silver.
Hmm. Yeah, commissioner just gotta. You just gotta probably.
Right. Who's Bane?
I mean, there is no bad guy, right? That's the whole thing. That's the story about Cleveland, right? Like, the fact is they've already won. There is no. It's not like, you
Miami
go to
Heat
Miami and then
Shadows?
there's like an arch nemesis or something like that. There isn't one right now. Like, anything's a bonus, right?
Or, I guess, yeah. I mean, I don't think you can really paint the Heat as the League of Shadows because,
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely not.
no, I don't think Pat. I would say maybe the Spurs as a combination is Bane,
Yeah.
and maybe Popovich is Raz Al Ghul,
Pushing it, I think. I think it's
and
pushing it.
Rachel Nichols plays the role of his daughter, Raz
Yeah.
Al Ghul's daughter.
I think we pushed
Or
this.
maybe Skip Bayless is Bane.
Yeah, maybe. There you go. He's probably the only guy who found some way to like hate on this decision.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else has.
Yeah.
So.
There's been a lot of talk. So there's been this is Dark Knight Rises, and I guess maybe if Kyrie Irving morphs into superstar player, then maybe in a year or two will be Dawn of Justice will be next.
Yeah, you never know.
Title.
It'll be interesting to see, definitely.
You think the Heat could have done anything to prevent this decision?
Maybe within reason. I mean, whether you like it or not, and I always make this joke. I've been making this joke for a couple of years now with you. Is the Heat? Oh, I'm sorry about that. The Heat make it a point to try to get reclamation projects, and they usually fail at them. Eddie Curry, Greg Oden, Michael Beasley, like they do it every time. Like it's almost like they don't learn from their mistakes. Like, oh no, we're gonna get it right this time. And like those are two guys who were supposed to come in and at least help him out a few minutes here and there, give some sort of meaningful minute, and they didn't do anything. They didn't give him anything for the playoffs. Like literally, they were non-factors. They were basically DNPs for most of the playoffs. So, I mean, those are things that like maybe Riley has to look at and reevaluate in the sense that maybe he could have done that better. Maybe he could have gone with less name guys, to be those guys. Because like Beasley, as bad as he was a name because he was the number 2 pick. So it's like it's almost like, oh no, we got this. We can do this. Like so. I mean, that's what I think. Maybe they could have done differently, but the reality is, a lot of this also had to do with the fact that, Dwayne Wade just wasn't like a superhero anymore. Like he just didn't have it. Like everybody has to hang up their cowl sometimes, and it looks like Wade hung up his maybe 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
Possibly.
And he maybe just came off for a couple of cameos here and there.
Yeah. I mean, definitely.
I think I don't think that he could have changed that, right? Because he had his injury issues and stuff like that. And knees are knees. Once they wear out, they wear out.
I mean, look. I mean, like I don't think, and I don't think re-signing Mike or keeping Mike Miller, might have changed the end
Yeah, I
result
think that
for
was
this team.
overstated. I think that was overstated. Like the whole like, oh, Mike Miller was his best friend. Like I mean, I think that was a little overstated.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, the Heat did what they could. I mean, they gave three superstars in their prime $100 million contracts each.
Mhm.
Well, they went over the tax to try to pay guys, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. But I think they did everything they could, to put a team
Yeah,
around
and
LeBron.
remember they reached the finals like
Yeah.
multiple times, and like that, yes, that was a lot of it was
Hmm.
because of LeBron, but they did. It wasn't a total failure.
And Pat,
A good.
yeah,
No, go
and,
ahead.
no, I was gonna say, and Pat Riley, say whatever you want about him. I mean, he runs a tight ship by nature, and I
Mhm.
think like if LeBron, I mean, his crew thought they were gonna come in and he run the place, then that was never gonna happen, no matter what. Even if LeBron was gonna resign, I think there's a level I think of control that Pat Riley wants, and hey, that's okay. He's earned it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, there's nothing. I don't have any issue with that, and I
So
mean,
what?
we'll start hearing stories like this, and I
Mhm.
think a lot of them may be like revisionist history and stuff like that.
Oh,
Like, oh, he didn't want him running this and that, or
totally.
like or LeBron was really thing about Riley's decision making. A lot of this is revisionist history. I don't
Right.
buy a lot of these stories.
Right.
I think it was a great run. It's just like every other run, it comes to an end. There's no run that just goes on and on, right? Like everything,
Yeah.
just like you have to retool, rebuild, and you kind of move on from there. What's interesting is, and a couple of people have brought this up to me, is Riley showed that you can build a team with 3 stars and pretty much close to nothing else. In the sense that it'll be like minimum guys or like way past veterans playing
Hmm.
for like close to nothing. He proved that was successful. That's the successful formula by winning 2 titles. But was that formula successful because it was 3 stars plus a bunch of minimums, or was it because out of those 3 guys, one of them was LeBron, the best player in the NBA? Like, would you replace LeBron with any other player in the league, Melo or somebody else? Like, do they have that success? Because I think they don't.
You know, if you,
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
yeah, I
talking
know what
about
you're
this.
saying. Look, if you put Melo, if you'd say you had replaced Melo on the Heat, and if you're getting like 2010, 2011 Dwayne Wade, I think you're still gonna win. I think you can still win a title.
Hmm.
Uh, I know that's debatable. You're right. I mean,
Because Boston, who were the first team that did this kind of big three thing, it was a different scenario. Like they had fantastic role players, and each of those guys who came together, they were later in their careers, and they were like specialized in one particular area. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like KG was like the defensive force and anchor and vocal voice. Paul
Hmm.
Pierce was the closer, the truth. He like had the ball at the end of the games, and
Hmm.
then Ray Allen was that lethal outside shooter. Like those very distinct roles.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
versus when the Heat got together, it was LeBron and Wade initially when Wade was still really good. Like they had to decide like who's going to be holding the ball and running everything. They tried doing that thing where they took turns, and it was fantastic to watch. But it ultimately caught up with them, and then they lost to the Mavs. The next year, I think Wade realized he needed to take a step back for LeBron to ascend and take over the team completely, and that would succeed, and it did. They won 2 straight titles
Yeah.
and went back to the finals a third time too. But I
Hmm.
just wonder, like, if that third player is not LeBron, does any other uh, do other teams have as much success as the Heat? I just don't. I don't think so. I
I
think
don't.
he's
I
that
mean, I
good.
think you. I think. Well, I think playing in the Western Conference, you'd be a contender. I think you'd win your 58 to 61 games, and if things go right, maybe you can get to the finals, maybe you can win a title. But I don't know. I don't know if I think LeBron, just his talent alone, his ability, elevated them to a level, yeah, that maybe like your run of the mill all star like Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, or
Uh,
even just like a superstar player. I just don't know, like, if
yeah,
it would work. Like,
yeah,
like it's interesting to think about it. I
that's
think.
debatable. I mean, if you look back at the past four runs in the final, right? You replace Carmelo Anthony, with LeBron. They'll probably maybe they beat Dallas. I don't think they would beat the Thunder.
Mm.
They probably Maybe I don't know. They probably would have lost to Spurs these past 2 years.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
it's
debatable.
really
You
I
know,
think it's an interesting question.
um, but going forward, do you think teams are still gonna try to go with that philosophy? Let's try to get, if the opportunity presents itself, let's try to get three superstars, or do you think teams are gonna try to maybe follow that Spurs model and get really solid like role players? Maybe guys
Yeah,
that aren't superstars, aren't all stars, but solid like 13, 14 point scorers and play team
yeah.
basketball.
That's a great question. And like this offseason has showed that at least a couple of teams, Houston and Chicago,
Oh yeah.
both tried really hard to go out and try to get another big timer. It was Melo, and in Houston's case, it was Melo and Bosh. They tried both. So I mean, like that, there were teams still trying that, and ultimately both those teams fell short of getting that. But you know, it's a tantalizing prospect just because kind of you feel as though you can kind of sell tickets and bring more buzz to the team and whatnot. So I think it's I don't know if it's a dead thing, but I think teams are gonna think twice about it. Um, we talked about the Spurs model. I mean, let's not forget, like you mentioned all those role players and stuff, but the impetus for that was the three stars several years ago deciding that they're always going to be taking less money just to keep going together. That was the thing. I mean, Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Ginobili, they've been getting paid a lot less. Not just now, forget now, but I'm talking about like even like 4 or 5 years ago. They always took under market deals just so like they could add more players.
Hmm.
And because of the way the CBA is, if you don't do that, then you're stuck with a scenario where it's three, and then you pretty much have to fill out with minimums, and that can be very successful as shown by the Heat. But
Hmm.
so far, only the Heat have been able to replicate that.
Yeah.
And that's why I was hoping the Rockets would land Bosh, because I was really hoping to see that again. Like, see if that's what I want to just test my hypothesis was: do three stars
Hmm.
get you back into that elite category, or is it because one of the three is LeBron? It would have been really good to see if Bosh won.
It's actually interesting you bring that up with the Rockets. Like, even had they gotten Chris Bosh, you know, it was still no lock for them to come out of the West. I mean, Kevin
The
Durant,
West is just so much more difficult.
yeah,
You know,
so much more difficult.
every. I mean, there's no way to make uh, any qualms about it. The West is just so difficult. You can be a contender, and you might be out in the second round. That's how the West is.
Yeah.
And in the East, it's kind of like we think of Miami as like like they had all these flaws. They got to the finals last year. Even with the LeBrons having to carry such a big load. And I said this to you in the finals. I was like, you know what? Maybe it's just because the East was so bad that they could get by on third year with like a faulty wheel. Like they could just get by and roll into the finals. Versus in the West, there were so many teams that would have been made life difficult for them on the way there. That they
I
might have come
mean,
up short.
yeah. I mean, look at the Heat. I mean, if you look at those games in the Spurs series, like when they're in the Eastern Conference, the Heat could fall down, fall behind. They come out slow, fall behind like 10, 12
Exactly.
points, and then go
Yeah.
on like a 27-10 run, and then put the other team away. But
Yeah.
the Spurs were so lethal offensively, like
Yeah. They never let down.
they
It
never
was
let down.
it was just like a it was like a it was
The
like
margin,
methodical. It was very surgical. It was
the margin for error was so low for the Heat against
yeah.
Western Conference teams,
Mhm.
versus
Mhm.
in
So
the
yeah,
East.
I think these teams are, like we said, like Melo's gone back to New York and stuff. So Houston and Chicago didn't get what they wanted, but I think teams are still gonna try. But I don't know. I'm getting a little bit dubious with this whole free agency charade. Like Houston put up a big parade. Not parade, but like they put up a big show for Melo. Chicago did the same thing, and it's kind of like it seems to me like a lot of the time these guys have already made their decision. Like I said it to you from like literally from like 5 months ago. I was like Melo, like why would he turn down this money to go somewhere else?
Yeah,
And
I
like
mean, like I feel like the only guy
kind of
that's
like he was like beating a dead horse and
yeah,
just dragging
yeah.
it out a little too long.
I mean, yeah. This time around, like I felt mellow. I mean, like you visited all those teams and you end up still going back to the Knicks. It's sort of like okay,
What was your point of going around the
what
country?
was
Like
your
just so
point?
you could be on the news. And it was funny because I like he wanted to be the guy that was courted and everything like that. But like literally, as soon as the LeBron news came out, it became a footnote, and nobody
Oh,
really
totally.
cared. Even
Totally.
now, it's funny because like Melo announced that he's going back to the Knicks, right? Like or whatever they announced it today. But last night, the Bulls were like putting together the Gasol deal, which pretty much takes them out of the Melo deal, which means that the Bulls basically took away Melo's last options, right? Because we're assuming that Rockets are probably going to end up matching Parsons, so they were probably told before that they were in the Melo sweepstakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of like Melo didn't even get to make his
And the
big
Lakers,
decision.
it was funny because the Lakers, they traded for Jeremy Lin, and I think that took away their cap space. So
yeah,
like,
they took away that cap space. So it's almost like the other teams made the decisions for Melo because like he was just taking way too long. So I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was a really long, drawn out
I don't know.
thing.
I feel if you're gonna have this long drawn out process where you go to multiple teams, at least switch teams. Give
at
us
least
some
switch
drama.
exactly. Like,
You know what I'm
saying?
saying? Say what you want about LeBron. Both times.
Yeah, like if you're gonna make it drawn out, just go somewhere else. Yeah,
go somewhere else.
Make it interesting. Yeah. I agree.
One last thing on the LeBron scenario. I mean, how do you see the future for the folding out for the Heat and the Cavs?
Oh. Okay, I mean like the Heat. I mean like, I think their run is over in terms of this team. They're gonna take care of Dwayne Wade. They really took care of Chris Bosh with the $118 million. Like they got like that was kind of like Mickey Harrison panicking because he didn't think LeBron would leave and being like,
sorry to real quick. I think I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I think Chris Bosh definitely came out a winner in this whole LeBron.
Bosh came out a winner big time.
Got paid. He's the man. Gets to stay in the city he loves.
He doesn't have to move or anything like that.
Yeah.
Big time. He comes with a big winner. You could say maybe the Heat are the losers here, but I mean, it's almost like the Heat kind of acknowledge, like, hey, we had a great run. We're grateful LeBron came, and we understand he's gone back. Like they were just happy they got him for like those years. And the future for them, I mean, I think you can forget about contending for titles anymore. Chris Bosh has got a 5-year contract. They're probably going to rebuild around him. I'm assuming, I was always predicting Dwayne Wade would probably, he opted out of $42 million. I always thought he would get like a 4-year $60 million. But like, do you think Dwayne Wade would want $60 million now that Chris Bosh got 118? Like, would he be happy? Now, do you think he wants 72? If he gets like 72, sort of and then like Bosh has got 118, sorry just like saying, oh, thank you for the last 4 years.
Wait, before we finish on that, just breaking news. Pau Gasol has just tweeted out, it hasn't been easy. After meditating it a lot, I've chosen to play with the Chicago Bulls. Looking forward to this new chapter of my career. Congrats.
Fantastic. So it's official.
We'll get to that in a bit, but just to close on this.
We might not even get to that today just because we don't know the exact parameters of the deal, but interesting.
Yeah. But with the I don't think the Heat will give Dwayne Wade $100 million.
No, they won't give him 100, but do you think like they'll give him maybe 72?
I think as a courtesy, they'll give him like a 4-year deal, $70 million.
See, 4 years 60 was what I said before, but now that Bosh gets 118.
Yeah, but Bosh is like
go to rally and be like, look, man, I won a title in 06 or whatever it was, like on my own.
I think that he can.
What is Riley's counter to that? Is it what have you done for me lately?
This is my counter if I'm Riley. Look,
is that Riley's counter?
Hey Dwayne, thanks for what you did, but look, we gave Chris $118 million, and we're gonna give you this money because the reason LeBron left wasn't because of Chris.
It
wasn't because of Chris Bosh, right?
Oh man!
It wasn't because of Chris Bosh he left. That would be my counter. Something to that.
Speaking of Bosh, and we'll try to wrap up now, but speaking of Bosh, this was one of those, as I like to call them, and I've patented it, sign and run moves, right? This was one of those Kobe Bryant, sign it and run for your life, right?
Oh, totally. I mean,
this was Bosh faxing over his papers to Daryl Morey for the $88 million contract. His agent running in the room, signing, unplugging the modem or whatever it is. Morey gets page number 1, and he's like, he calls up Chris. Hey, Chris, I didn't get the second page with your signature on it. And Chris is like, Here, talk to my agent.
Yeah, hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I hit my mic button. Oh no, I was just saying that I think once Daryl Morey, like the fax stopped getting to Daryl Morey, he probably started hitting the fax machine, like tapping it, like what's going on here, you know? And then maybe since Les Alexander is maybe paying the bills for the Rockets, like phone bills, maybe he didn't want to call Ghana on a long distance phone call. You know,
That's
I
what I'm
mean,
saying.
just
The fax was slow from Ghana, so they were
they
waiting
called
for
IT, be like, they called IT, maybe the thing's out of toner. Is there any paper left? Like, what gives? You know?
they they WhatsApp Chris Bosh like, hey, can you please call us
Yeah,
back on this?
WhatsApped him. So I think Daryl Morey had his finger on the tweet button. Maybe he was about to tweet Chris
Oh
Bosh.
yeah, welcome to Rocket Nation,
Welcome
no
to the
question.
Rockets. So
Yeah.
that might have been an interesting PR move. Maybe what if Daryl like forced his hand? They tweeted him out and then put Bosh in a position like,
Oh,
uh, you know,
yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, yeah, like it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this free agency pans out, and I'm sure we're gonna discuss this several times before the season starts.
yeah.
But yeah, we wanted to get together and just powwow with the whole LeBron thing. It was a big shock for all of us. I
Hmm.
think we can agree on one thing. We don't agree on a lot of things, but we can agree this was a fantastic story in terms
Yeah.
of,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
just like beyond basketball. It was just a really cool sports story, I think.
Definitely. And
So.
before we let you go, you're the soccer expert here. What are your predictions on the World Cup?
Yeah, so right now, the third place game, which I've got on picture in picture here, Netherlands are beating Brazil, so it looks like Brazil's pretty much had a disappointment, and then they're going to be fourth in this World Cup. But tomorrow's the big game. Once every 4 years, two teams get together. The biggest event, pretty much in my opinion, in the world. Germany and Argentina, two powerhouses. They've met twice in the finals before, 86 and 90. They've split the World Cup once, Argentina winning in 86 and 1990 being won by Germany. I think Germany is going to win tomorrow. I think they're a machine. They're much more efficient than Argentina. Argentina has maybe the best player in the world in Lionel Messi, but ultimately the Germans have too much quality on the field and on the bench, and they're going to prevail.
I have no clue what I'm saying with this analysis. I am going to Argentina because I
Because
like
of the
their
shirt.
uniforms,
Because you like the
and
shirt.
I've always wanted to visit the city or the country. So
Fantastic.
so all right. Well, enjoy the World Cup final, guys, and we'll be posting more some stuff on Bandwagon Sports and Adil. I guess until next time, take care, everybody.
All right. See you later.
See
Bye.
you later.